Hi everyone, yasas que kalos tirtata to another episode of Dimitra's Dishes. Today I'm going to teach you how to make a spinach and feta filled pastitsio. If you've already had classic Greek pastitsio, it's basically the Greek version of lasagna, and it's made with a rich tomatoey meat sauce and a creamy bechamel topping, pasta, and lots of cheese. This is all of that minus the meat sauce, so we're going to be making a spanakopita filling and putting it in between the pasta. It's still going to have the luscious cream sauce, lots of cheese, and delicious pasta. This is so delicious. Let's get started. Okay, we're going to begin by making the spanakopita filling, and I've made this so many times. This is the same thing that I use for my spinach-filled croissants and a bunch of other recipes. I've thinly sliced a bunch of scallions, about 5 or 6 of them, all the way down to the white parts, and I'm going to add them to my skillet with a couple tablespoons of olive oil, and they're going to cook over medium heat for about 2 to 3 minutes until they begin to soften. Then I have 3 garlic cloves that are grated. They're going to go in and warm through just until they're fragrant. Be careful not to overcook garlic, especially when it's finely ground like this, otherwise it'll burn and get bitter. Next, I have 1.5 pounds of baby spinach leaves, so I'm not going to add them in all at once, a little bit at a time, and I'll season each batch with salt and pepper. I'll also increase the heat to a medium high, so that way most of the liquid that's released from the spinach will kind of evaporate and cook off. This can stay a juicy mixture. You don't have to dry it up completely because we're going to have pasta, and pasta loves to soak up liquid, right? So once the spinach is completely wilted, I'm going to go in and add a heaping teaspoon of dried dill. If you have fresh dill, that's even better. Go in and add about a 1/4 cup or so. Next, I'll add 4 ounces or 115 grams of cream cheese. This is straight out of the refrigerator, and the heat is off at this point. That residual heat in the pan that's going to melt the cream cheese, just break it up and just keep mixing it, and you'll see it will almost create a sauce, and it's also going to help the mixture become nice and creamy. So mix that all up, take it off of the stovetop, and now we're just going to add about 300 grams of feta. I'm just going to crumble it up. This is sheep's milk feta, which is my favorite. Use whatever feta you have and love, and that's it. The filling is ready. You can give it a little taste to see if it needs any more seasoning, but we're just going to set this aside, and now we're going to move on to making our bechamel sauce. This is going to be a little bit of a thinner bechamel, and you'll see why in a little bit. So in a pot, I'm going to add about 4 tablespoons of olive oil and about 5 to 6 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. This is going to cook over medium heat just until the flour is toasted. And then I'm going to go in and add about 5 cups of whole milk. This is cold whole milk, and I'm going to keep whisking until everything is combined. Then we're going to season with some salt, freshly cracked black pepper, and about a 1/4 teaspoon of ground nutmeg. Once this mixture comes to a boil, you can turn the heat off. It's going to be thick, but it won't be as thick as traditional bechamel. In the same pitcher that I had the milk in, I just added 2 whole eggs. I'm just going to whisk the eggs up, and then I'll add some of that hot milk mixture to the eggs to temper them. Then they're going to go back into the pot. The heat is off at this point. And then we're also going to add 1 to 2 handfuls of grated kefalotiri cheese. If you don't have kefalotiri, you can use Parmesan. And that's it. We're taking it off the heat. You see how it's a little bit on the runnier side. It's a little thin. Don't worry, as it sits, it will get thicker, but you don't want this to be too thick. So that's going to sit aside while we boil the pasta noodles. Now, traditionally, I would use pastitsio noodles, also known as the bucatini, but I didn't have any. I did have this penne pasta. I have a pot of boiling water ready, and I'll add 1 pound of the penne pasta in here and season it with some salt. 2 to 3 teaspoons is good. You want to get flavor in that pasta as much as you can. This is going to boil for about 10 minutes or until it's al dente. I'll drain out most of the water, and now it's time to assemble the pastitsio. So I'll take half of the penne and put it in a 9 by 13 inch baking pan, and then I'll add a ladleful of that bechamel sauce. I'll also add some shredded mozzarella. You can use Gouda if you want, or whatever your favorite cheese that melts beautifully, you could add that. I like the mozzarella because it's a little bit lighter and milder. And then I'll also crumble in some more feta cheese, mix that all up just to make sure that the pasta is coated. Then I'm going to take that delicious spanakopita filling that we just made and spread it over the top of the noodles. The remaining noodles that are in the pot, there's still a little bit of water in there. No big deal because the pasta will absorb it later on in the oven and it'll make a really juicy pastitsio. But I'm going to take 1 or 2 more ladlefuls of the bechamel. Next, I'll add some more mozzarella, a little bit more feta, and this is going to go over the spanakopita filling. And then we're going to top this with the remaining bechamel sauce. You'll see it's thickened to just the right consistency. Spread it evenly over the top of the pasta, and it's going to go in the oven and bake at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for about an hour, or until it gets those beautiful golden spots on top. You want to let this sit for a little while once it comes out of the oven. If you cut into it, the whole thing is going to become a soupy mess. So you want it to kind of hold its layers. It's going to take about 2 hours to set. If you're serving this for a dinner party, you can make this early in the morning, let it sit, and just warm it through in the oven for about 15 minutes before you serve it, just so that way it gets nice and hot and you'll still be able to cut into it. It smells so good. Let's do the taste test. Spinach, anything is delicious. Add some pasta and cream sauce to it, and it goes over the top. It's so good. It's so creamy. You can definitely add some meat to this if you want to by adding a layer of meat sauce in there. So you can mix the meat sauce with that first layer of pastitsio. That's an option. I'll write the tips in the blog post, so make sure you check that out. Head on over there to print out this recipe and make it. It's so good. Your family's going to absolutely love it. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I'll see you all next time. Yes, us.